Defender has a story that many think could be unraveling.
Judging by your last answer, you're really just an acquaintance.
Well, the close was not ever my turn.
Your role in this, Joe, just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. And I'll agree with you. My role in this, I agree, just doesn't make sense.
Less than 24 hours after that grilling on MSNBC's The Last Word, Joe Oliver, defender of George Zimmerman, joins me live in studio this morning. Joe, I gotta say, that was a really rough interview that you went through last night with Jonathan Capehart, Lawrence O'Donnell, Charles Blow. You were really taken to task. I want to remind everybody just other parts of that interview.
I've been trying to contact George since shortly after this happened, and I've been trying to contact him in order to offer my help because of my experience with the media.
Joe, a lot of people wonder, why in the heck are you here continually taking media interviews after admitting last night that you really are just an acquaintance, you were work colleagues, and you really don't know a lot about George Zimmerman? Why are you still doing this?
Because I know enough about George to put myself in the crossfire, because I'm an African-American male and I understand what the outrage is all about. I've gone on record also saying, if I am wrong about this, I'll be at the front of the Million Hoodie March. If I'm wrong about this, I'll put myself out at the mercy of the court of public opinion. But I still don't understand what the point of that interview was, because that had nothing to do with why we're having this discussion anyway. It had nothing to do with what happened between George and Trayvon. And it is my belief in my heart, in my soul, and it is the reason why I'm out here, first and foremost, this was not a racial incident. This was a case of an individual who lived in that neighborhood, who was concerned about his neighborhood security, and he saw something suspicious and called it in. What happened after that was a horrible, horrible tragedy. No question about that.
As you say, it's not a racial incident, but there is the racial epithet that's heard by many on the tape to police. You have yourself said that you have heard the derogatory remark, the effing C word, on that tape. How can you say that this is not a racial incident when someone is describing the person that they believe and deem to be suspicious as black, and then potentially call them a derogatory term on tape to the police? How is this not a racial incident?
Your question to me is a perfect example of the misinformation and the half information that's being put out there, because I also said I've played it several times and I've heard a hard C and I've heard a hard G. And after speaking with George this morning and asking him, is that what he said? He told me he's never ever said that, and that he himself heard the recording that was played to him by the police department, and neither of those words was on the recording that he heard. Now, and this is the first I've heard about that. So your question is a perfect example of how we have gone off half-cocked from the very beginning, when it was first reported that George was white, when he is not. We're going off half-cocked when we're still getting information about what happened out there. I understand the outrage, and if I didn't know George Zimmerman, I'd be out there. I'd be out there. I'd be outraged. I'd have my hoodie on.
One thing, though, that we want to play is Charles Blow talking to you last night about...
Again, that interview had nothing to do with George and Trayvon.
But it has everything to do about what you know about the man that you're trying to defend, because you weren't there at this shooting.
And neither was anyone else, and that's the problem.
About who George Zimmerman is, and you're trying to defend a man that no one else is showing up to defend. Not even his own parents have come out for an interview yet. Take a listen to this.
If you don't know where George Zimmerman is, and if you have not seen him in over a month, and you have been going out saying that George cannot stop crying, which you cannot verify because you were not there, you have been saying, you have been saying that there are lacerations and his nose is broken, and the only thing you know is what George may have told you, because you were not there and you have not seen him for over a month. How do you know in your heart?
Have you ever had a gut feeling?
You were not there.
Have you ever had a gut feeling?
So this is a gut feeling.
Were you there?
So this is
were
not
you there?
All right, so you've talked to George this morning. You talked to George on Saturday, so you've spoken to him now twice.
No,
last night.
And again, wrong. I've spoken to him
Last night
Saturday.
you said
I
you
spoke
spoke
to him
on
Sunday.
Saturday. You wouldn't
I spoke
reveal
to him Saturday
what
and Sunday.
But you wouldn't reveal any of the information with that, and that wasn't revealed last night in that interview. It said you spoke to him on Saturday, and then when Lawrence asked you what you discussed, you said you wouldn't reveal that. So it didn't lend itself to any of the credibility that you're trying to bring to air because you won't reveal any of the conversations. Now, overnight, since that interview, you've now spoken to George Zimmerman again, and he's given you permission to reveal part of that conversation in reference to the police tape? Is that what you're telling me today?
No, look, that part of the conversation just happened this morning because my conversations with George have been to reassure myself that I am doing the right thing, because this horrible incident has sparked the tinder, the wood that has been piling up for years because of our racial tensions here. That's why I'm stepping into it. Two reasons. This was not a racial incident, and because I am a black American.
Why is no one else speaking out for George Zimmerman, just you?
Because they're afraid. They're in hiding as much as George is, you know? He's
friends of George. I mean, you're a friend, you say you're a friend or an acquaintance of colleagues. I mean, his colleagues and his friends are in hiding? His colleagues and friends are not people that
his
work with him. Acquaintances,
speak out because
his acquaintances are hiding.
His colleagues cannot speak out because that would risk their jobs. That interview last night may have cost me my job.
Why would that interview cost you your job? You've done I don't know how many interviews.
Because
why would that one be the linchpin to the success of your career?
Because it has nothing to do with my employer.
What does it have to do with then?
My employer is concerned as well because they need to keep their clients.
In terms of...
And because, Thomas, this whole thing, all of this, the one common denominator, because of why George called in that first night, of why Trayvon and George met together, of why George's family and friends won't come out and speak, of why we can't talk about where we work, is fear. It's the common denominator. There is security around my workplace right now.
I thought
because there have been threats.
I thought you left work. That's something you said last night in Lawrence. You've taken time off from work.
Yes, I have taken time off.
Now you're in New York, and now you're.
I went to work Monday morning, and I've had conversations with my employers, and it was agreed that it would be best for the security of my coworkers that I take some time and I address this until I'm no longer a part of the story.
But I am not
part of the story.
Are you worried for your own safety?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the threats that are out there. Because there have been veiled threats that have come through my employer towards me.
Does it make you regret stepping your foot into this foray?
No. Because I know and I believe, and we're seeing this, that more and more and more facts about the case are coming out and they're going to be revealed, and the motive and what happened is getting clear. There's a reason why it's taken so long for the investigators to release their information, because they know just how volatile it's going to be when they come to the original conclusion that George was acting in self-defense.
We shall see how it all cracks out. Joe Oliver, thanks for taking time for us. We appreciate your insights in all of this. Again, you don't want to be clarified as a close friend, but an acquaintance, correct?
I will clarify that I have known George since he started dating his wife. I am closer to his in-laws. I will clarify that. I will clarify that I know George well enough to put my own reputation and my own life on the line, because I know George would do the same for me.
Joe Oliver. Joe, thank you. Appreciate it. Vice President Joe Biden